What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about the latest NFL news that impacts the Minnesota Vikings, playoff reseeding, the tush push, a new NFL Offensive Lineman Award that potentially Christian Darrisaw could win, so we'll break that all down. And then also with OTA starting next week, I want to go over 5 storylines that I'm going to be watching during those practices. But before we dive into it, one of my favorite things to do here on the channel is I'll randomly ask you guys on a show to just get down in the comment section and name a random Vikings player. We do this part of our live shows a lot, and the answers I get are absolutely awesome. So if you guys could name a random Vikings player down below. For me, I'll go Aldrick Robinson. Let's see if anybody can top that one. But you guys name a random Vikings player down below. All right, so there's a lot of talk, specifically coming in from the Lions here. They were going to propose a change in the seeding in the playoffs, where they were going to reseed how it kind of goes down, where even if, for example, last year, if the Vikings, them winning 14 games, they still had to go and have a road playoff game. Technically, with the new Lions proposal, the Vikings would have been the 2 seed in the conference, no matter what of divisions. But in terms of this, the Lions withdrawing their playoff reseeding proposal, I think this is the right call, because I think this is different than any other sport, especially the NBA, MLB, NHL, where winning your division just matters so much more. And I think this was the right call, because I think we had such a special game last year in Week 18, where it's like Vikings versus the Lions, and it was for the number 1 seed, and then the loser could have potentially dropped to the 5th seed. Now, yes, with this proposal, that game still would have been massive, just because you're playing for that bye, a lot on the line. But that game felt so big, because it's like, if you lose that game, which the Vikings did, you got to go play a road playoff game against the Rams. That was not an easy game. Vikings got their ass kicked in that one. So I think this is the right call, not changing the reseeding in the playoffs. And, could you imagine, this is how it shook out last year? Pretty much you would move the Vikings up to the 2 line. Packers would move up, and I think they would be playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home. So, yes, if you're going off last year, this would have been a big advantage for the Vikings. But then you would have hopped right down, had probably a home game in the divisional. That would have been pretty sweet. But, again, I'm not just going to say, they need to change this rule just because the Vikings kind of got screwed last year. I still think it was the right call. Winning the division matters in my eyes. So, shout out to the Lions for not making that proposal today. But also some more big-time news. The tush push will live to see another year. They almost were able to ban it for next season, but they're actually 2 votes short. And any time I think of the tush push, I don't think of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think of a game in Cincinnati against the Bengals on a Saturday in overtime. Set the scene here. It is overtime. 6 minutes left. The Vikings are driving down the field, and before this, it was a 3rd and 1 situation. Vikings get stopped on the tush push. So what does Kevin O'Connell go to next? We're going to bring in 5'8" wide receiver Brandon Powell to push Nick Mullins behind Garrett Bradbury. If I had to rank, and I am so confident in this, if there was a compilation of all the tush pushes ran in the NFL since it became a play, I promise you this is the worst one ever executed. I was seriously sitting there on our live show questioning if Kevin O'Connell, if he had something to drink before the game or something, because I couldn't comprehend that in KOC how smart he is. He knows more football than I will ever know in my life, that this guy decided to go to a Nick Mullins, Brandon Powell, Garrett Bradbury tush push. I mean, it was absolutely criminal out of KOC, but probably the worst play call of his career. It's either this one or the Jefferson pass in the wild card game, 4th and 1, backed up in your own territory. That was a terrible call as well. But here were the teams that voted against the tush push ban. So these guys are in favor of the tush push. Obviously, the Eagles are up there. Makes a lot of sense. Ravens, physical football team, makes sense. Same with the Browns, physical team. Lions, makes sense. Don't understand the Jags, why they wanted to keep it, or the Dolphins. I think if you had to rank the least physical team in the NFL, Dolphins probably at the top of that list, so that doesn't make sense. Saints, makes sense. Kellen Moore. Jets, having Justin Fields, they're probably thinking that could be an advantage for them. Titans, don't really understand as well, but yeah, those are 10 teams that voted to keep the tush push this season. And then also some awesome news here. the NFL is introducing a new annual award, Protector of the Year, which will honor the league's top offensive lineman. Christian Darrisaw, you want to win Comeback Player of the Year and the Protector of the Year award. Also, the name of that is perfect, Protector of the Year. I think the NFL did a great job, but shout out to Deion Dawkins. He was actually at the front of this, and I believe Joe Thomas. They were the guys pushing for that award. So I love that. I think it's to be Christian Darrisaw and Penei Sewell battling it out for that award every single season. But some more news in the NFL here. Hard Knocks. It's not going to be going to the Vikings. It'll actually be going to the Buffalo Bills. And then the in-season Hard Knocks will be the NFC East. So this year, no Hard Knocks for the Minnesota Vikings. I've always been in the camp where, yes, Hard Knocks may be a distraction somewhat, but if you're still a well-run organization, you can, have that not be an issue. So I've always wanted the Vikings to do Hard Knocks. Maybe they will eventually, but I'll ask you guys this. Would you want the Vikings to do Hard Knocks? I know some people are like, absolutely not. It's a distraction, and I totally understand that, but I've always been in the camp of, you know what, let's do it. It would be cool to get behind-the-scenes look of just how KOC, Flores, all these guys run their practices. But what say you on this one? Would you want the Vikings to do Hard Knocks? Coming up next here on the show, top storylines to follow during OTAs that start next week. There's a lot of battles at big-time positions for this Vikings team. So we'll break it all down here on today's show. But before we do so, I do want to give a massive shout-out to today's presenting sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Now, if you guys download the Prize Picks app today and plug in promo code CONS, you guys will get $50 instantly after you put your first $5 lineup. That's code CONS to get $50 instantly after you put your first $5 lineup. Now, the basketball playoffs are here, and the action is heating up on Prize Picks. It's the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. And don't miss your last chance to add your favorite players from the court to your Prize Picks lineup, whether it's points, rebounds, assists. Take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. I'll tell you what, I'll be taking the more on Anthony Edwards points in Game 2 versus the Thunder. And I might even sprinkle in a little Jaden McDaniels more on three-pointers made. But, hey, if you guys want to create a lineup for the basketball playoffs, do so with Prize Picks. And we got a deal for you guys where if you download the app and plug in promo code CONS, you guys will get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's code CONS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. A massive shout-out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, let's talk about the top storylines I'm going to be looking at here with OTAs just around the corner. Number one, I'm going to be keeping my eyes out on the wide receiver 3 battle. Now, we obviously know top 2 dogs, Jefferson, Jordan Addison, not going anywhere, but that wide receiver 3 spot is wide open. I think it's going to be a 3-man competition between Jalen Nailor, Ty Felton, and Rondale Moore. I don't think any other guy really has a chance to crack that spot. I think the Vikings have a solid 5 up there, but I think it's really going to come down to if Ty Felton's ready to roll and he looks legit, I think he'll get it. Because with the Vikings only having, heading into the draft with 4, obviously they left with 5 picks, they weren't just going to use one of their premium draft picks on a guy if they didn't truly believe in him as a player. And I think they do. I think they view Ty Felton as a guy that could be the wide receiver 3 of the future. And then let's just say Addison, stuff goes wrong with his contract extension talks. Like, they're probably viewing this guy as he could be wide receiver 2 insurance. And, him playing next to Jefferson, Addison, Keenan Me Cardell as his coach, I think this is a guy that's got all types of untapped potential. Vikings are the one team that has always gotten the most out of these wide receivers over the last 15, honestly, out of the last 25 years in the NFL. So I think he's going to have a great career in Minnesota. If I had to call it right now, Ty Felton will be wide receiver 3. But then there's also a battle at the cornerback 2 spot. Byron Murphy, he's top dog. He can play inside, outside corner. They'll line him up everywhere. But then besides that, I would assume Isaiah Rodgers gets this nod at first just because he's a veteran, played really, really well for the Eagles this past season. But then it's like a guy like Mekhi Blackman. Like, if he, coming off that torn ACL, looks really good in training camp, has a good year, I could see, him getting that spot. And you also got a guy like Jeff Okudah, former top 5 pick, all types of talent in his game. Can Flores get the most out of him? He could potentially be a sneaky cornerback 2 here. And then also Dwight McGlothern, UDFA out of Arkansas. Not sure if he'll ever crack it, but he would definitely be in consideration for that spot. And then number 3 for me, I got J.J. McCarthy's health. And what I really mean by that, I don't think he's going to have a reset whatsoever, but I think it's just like if he even just gets banged up a little bit, I think we're going to obviously be concerned. But I have zero concerns on his health right now, but it's definitely something all of us Vikings fans should monitor because our backup quarterback, Sam Howell, like it's not like we got I don't even know who would be a top backup quarterback in the league right now, or like a Jameis Winston or, one of these top, or like a Gardner Minshew, a guy we'd feel a lot more comfortable stepping in. Listen, you got Sam Howell, or even if we would have kept Daniel Jones, like it would have been like catastrophic if McCarthy has to miss a game or two. But as it stands right now, I think it would. So again, zero concerns on this, but just something to monitor throughout this entire offseason. Then also the safety rotation. Now, the Vikings, they run that bandit defense a whole lot. They got 3 safeties on the field 97% of the time, and most of these safeties for the Vikings end up playing just de facto box linebacker. But assuming these 3 are going to be the guys getting a majority of the reps here, I think Theo is probably going to play 1,000 snaps this season. Same with Metellus, same with Smith. But besides this, like, is it a guy like Jay Ward? Is he going to have to step up if Harrison Smith, has to go down for a game or two? Obviously older guy. I think 16 seasons so far for Harrison Smith, which is unreal. But I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking about the guy after these 3. Who's going to step up in training camp? Who's going to step up during OTAs? So just keep your eyes out on that. And also just the offensive scheme for a guy KOC. And, I'm not saying you're going to get a great look at this during OTAs because, honestly, I don't even think we'll get a great look at this during the preseason. Probably going to be more, during the regular season, first couple of weeks, like how different it's going to look. But is he investing more in the run game? Is he, adding more of a quick passing game, which a lot of us, would have hoped he would at the tail half of last season. So just watching little changes that KOC's making. Maybe there's some read options in there with J.J. McCarthy. I think people are really undervaluing his legs. But mainly just seeing, who's getting the RB1 reps. Probably still going to be Aaron Jones, but maybe Jordan Mason, takes some during training camp. We'll just have to wait and see. But those are 5 things I'm watching during OTAs. But, hey, if you guys made it to the end of today's show, hit me with a skull down below in the comments section. We appreciate all of you guys for watching today's episode of Vikings Now by Chat Sports. Shout out to all of you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes.